Okay, so I'm here with Timothy McVeigh. I mean, Tim. Sorry. You kind of. No, I'm just kidding. I'm here with Tim, and we're going to be discussing. So we'll be doing a comparative analysis of the rationally driven, belief system versus the faith-driven belief system, and how that, or what are the implications for that in everyday life. What is detrimental about each system, or what are the pros and cons? So Tim, how would you approach that?
Yeah, the main problem I have with Christian thinking is that all their beliefs are dependent on a faith-based system.
Mm-hmm.
And
so what's wrong with a faith-based system?
A faith-based system does not rely upon epistemological evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Like science does.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that if you depend upon a faith-based system, then your decisions and your theories on life are not going to be efficacious to your well-being.
Okay, so what if I was a Christian and I would actually argue that you're wrong, because before becoming a Christian, I attempted to live the rational life, but in and of myself was not able to control my behaviors and whatnot. And once I came into a life of belief and faith, then in that faith, I believed that God had the power to cleanse me of that and to sanctify me away from those type of behaviors. So, don't you think that what you're saying is a bit relativistic, in the sense that you believe that having faith is not going to be efficacious to a healthy lifestyle, but I could say that there is ample evidence to the opposite if we take a scientific perspective.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, in many cases there are people who are Christian, but it does not really affect the way they live in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that's... Yeah.
But I also could say that there are many individuals who live rationally, but do not necessarily subject their behaviors to rational thought. So, I mean, rationally we should understand that this behavior, for example, overeating leads to obesity. You understand that this is rational. You understand that, through scientific evidence, we understand, obesity and metabolic syndrome comes from overeating or eating certain types of foods too much. So, but just simply because that's the truth does not necessarily mean that someone who understands that from a rational perspective will tend to put that into practice. Whereas if someone is subject to a belief system of a power that they believe is above them, then it helps them to overcome self in some way and begin to behave appropriately.
Yeah, well, I guess that is true. Like, believing in a higher power can have a sort of a placebo effect on yourself, and but I think that it's much better if you come to your conclusions by looking at the evidence.
But how do you define better? What is your metric for determining what is good or not good in that sense?
Whether it brings you the optimal consequences, or.
But what are the optimal consequences?
Just whatever brings you the most pleasure and makes you the happiest.
So you're saying that a rational life leads to a happier life, or a more pleasurable life. But I could say that Christians believe that a life based in faith brings more pleasure and happiness. Right? So I don't know that's necessarily true.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of Christians rationalize their beliefs into, they think that they're happy when they're not. Well, they could be much happier if they based their beliefs on rationality. But I mean, I know many Christians who seem pretty happy, and I wouldn't deny that they are happy. So
Me coming from a Christian background, of course, very dedicated Christian background, I can say I was happy in many ways. In many ways that I'm not happy now, to be honest. And now I'm happy in many ways that I wasn't happy then. I just think that there's kind of a different approach to life. To be honest, there is a sense of fulfillment in Christian belief. You believe that you have an ultimate purpose, an ultimate goal in life, and that is to fulfill, or to bring the most glory to God through your, the lifestyle that you have chosen to live through His power, right?
Right.
So I can say personally that, looking at my life before becoming a Christian, looking at my life as a Christian, and after, being a Christian, I think that it was maybe progressive because, before becoming a Christian, of course, I was a very sad, dark individual, but a lot of that had to do with my upbringing. And then once I came to Christianity, once I came to faith, I felt like, all of that burden had been taken by Christ. And I felt like, He was working in me to fulfill an ultimate goal of bringing truth and happiness to His flock, and eventually spending eternal bliss with Him. So there's a high degree of satisfaction in that belief, and I think that that's also why a lot of Christians aren't willing to look at rationality, because they're caught up in that. They believe that this system of ultimate reward in God's presence, and in giving Him glory through your life, far exceeds the goal of a rationalist who doesn't believe that there is any goal to life, that we're just simply kind of randomly bouncing about like atoms. So I don't know that, to be honest, I don't know that you can argue from a happiness perspective or from a fulfillment perspective that a rational life is a superior life, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah. And that's only from my own, personal experience and the experiences that I've known of other people. But now, that being said, of course, I also don't believe that Christians can conclude that non-Christians are not happy. Right? I don't think that Christians can say, well, because you are not, you don't have a goal in life, or you don't have a purpose, there's no way you can be fulfilled. You've got a heart-shaped, a God-shaped vacuum in your heart, and it'll never be filled by the pleasures of this world. That's their philosophy. But I also think that that's unfair, because I think that there are plenty of non-believers who live a very fulfilled and very happy life simply through the discovery process of life itself. We find extreme pleasure in discovering and understanding and creating and all of these things that we're capable of doing, and loving and interacting and all of these things. We find extreme pleasure in those things, and I can't say that as a Christian I was more pleasured by the experiences that I had in my belief than I am now through the experiences that I have through this discovery process of life.
Right.
What do you think?
Yeah, but when you believe in Christianity, there's a lot of rules you have to follow that restrict what you can do in life, and it also.
But it could be argued that. Okay, but actually, what are those restrictions? There are restrictions against overeating, against over drinking. There are restrictions against having sex with everyone that you run into. And being devoted to one spouse throughout your entire life. These are the type of restrictions we're talking about. Not cussing and not cursing other people, but blessing. And to be honest, I think a lot of the rules in the Bible they make sense. If they didn't make sense, then people wouldn't follow them. It would be impossible. That's the point, I think. There are a lot of even Old Testament, Levitical laws that came into place that actually protected the Jews from certain diseases and things like this, because they followed a more cleanly type of lifestyle based on that. And now science, of course, has brought us to the point to where we can eat pork without it killing us and all these type of things. So you could say that we've kind of progressed past that, and we're able to enjoy more things now.
Well, yeah, but it just seems like that the Bible is the rules in the Bible have become like so obsolete that for people to believe them now is just.
Can you give me an example of an obsolete rule? A New Testament rule, not Old Testament, because Christians believe that the Old Testament rules are no longer applicable, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to go to the temple and sacrifice a lamb on the Day of Atonement, something like that.
Just like, I mean, it says that it's a sin to commit homosexuality, but there is no like legitimate reason why why God doesn't really.
Because God made Adam and Eve instead of Adam and Steve.
Yeah.
That's the argument. That looks good.
Yeah, this is for you. I bought it for you, man.
Thank you.
I know you're the hungry guy.
I am hungry. So you think so homosexuality is one. What are the other ones? I mean, homosexuality I can agree is a big one. But how about abortion or?
Yeah.
But actually, does the Bible say that abortion is illegal? Or is it? I don't think abortion existed at that time, did it? So
I don't know.
it didn't. So I mean, there weren't any laws against abortion. I wouldn't say. I think that you could say that murder, but how can you And they define actually that life starts at inception. They believe the spirit is imbued into the fetus at conception.
Right.
So. Yeah, I guess abortion also would be illegal from that perspective. So you're right. There are outdated laws. And I've known people who suffered terribly because of those laws, because of those rules. Homosexuals who, of course, no one really knows why people have that tendency to be a homosexual. But people who do and who are raised in a Christian environment are just conflicted. They have so much turmoil because they've just got these very natural tendencies. They look at a woman and they're not interested. They're not sexually appeal. They're not. They don't have the sexual appeal when they look at women, but when they look at men, they do. Now, did they ask to be that way? No, but you're asking them to deny themselves.
Yeah.
Of that, so I could see how that would be extremely cumbersome, I guess, for an individual. So you think that biblical rules that have to do with promiscuity are keeping you from having the happiest possible life that you can have?
No, not necessarily. But.
Because I could actually say that I know a lot of Christians who believe in those same rules. And they've married, and they've been celibate, or they were celibate until marriage, and then they were monogamous from marriage, and they're completely happy. They've got 16 fucking kids, and they're happy as all can be. I mean, they're very fulfilled individuals. So that may not be applicable to you, but maybe not someone else. Maybe they find that maybe they would say that the most fulfilling life is one, lived in celibacy before marriage and monogamy afterwards.
Yeah.
That's also why I think it's very relative in that sense. Who is one person and this is the real problem. It's the Bible seeks to determine the most fulfilling path or behavior of an individual for all individuals. And we're all so different, it's impossible to do that. And that's why I think that it's severely flawed in that sense. And you're never going to reach maximal utility or maximum, even on an individual basis, maximal happiness for an individual if you have one set of rules for all of mankind. We're all as male and female, as black and white, as Asian and non-Asian, culturally speaking, all of the differences that we have. There's just no way you can have one set of rules that are applicable to all of society and reach the maximal result through that way. So it's just impractical in that sense. But some people can fit right into that system, and they derive extreme happiness and fulfillment through that. And I say, good luck. That's great for you. Awesome if you really find the greatest and highest fulfillment in that type of lifestyle. And that type of belief system, not based on rationality. When you try to tell me that the Earth is 8,000 years old, and you just believe that in your heart, and you're satisfied in that belief, well, then that's fine. That's where you are, and that's okay for you. But I'm not gonna allow myself to believe such nonsense. And you should respect that too, right? I mean, as if the Christian, or I'm speaking to the Christian should also respect that and say, okay, well, it's not like I'm coming at this from an irrational perspective and just saying simply, well, I want to sin and therefore I don't believe in this crap. That's really not the way it works. I've taken a very rational approach to it. I've taken a very scientific approach to analysis of the data that's being presented to us. The historicity of the Bible, the textual criticism that's associated with Scripture, all these aspects, and I've come to the conclusion that it's bullshit. It's false.
Right.
So I think Christians should learn how to respect other people who have come to that conclusion, because it's not like I've just determined on my own that, oh wow, this is just false because I don't like it, because I just don't like it. I don't like that idea of a big granddaddy up in the sky always watching me masturbate. That's not the reason we don't become Christians, but a lot of Christians believe that is the case, and that's sad. That's really sad.
Yeah. I mean, well, Christians think that all those people who don't believe in the Bible are going to hell.
Yes.
I mean, I think that really messes up their thinking of people. Just
I agree.
Relations with people.
It does. It makes it in some ways superficial, because they'll never really. I mean, in a lot of ways, when I think back to when I was a Christian and when I was proselytizing and when I was trying to teach other people that the way of salvation, within my heart of hearts, did I really look on them with sympathy? Did I really look on them with what a consideration of love? And is that consideration of love any less in importance or in volume now that I'm not a Christian? And I would say no. I still, when I look at people who are blind or deaf, I still have a hurt in my heart, because I can't imagine going through the whole life experience, the one life experience that you have with these handicaps, and people who are born in societies where they're oppressed by their governments, where they don't have clean water and all these type of things. I think that unfortunately Christians look at that from the perspective of, okay, well, we're trying to save them, their eternal soul, and you're trying to save their physical. You're trying to relieve their pain on a physical basis. But which one which one can you derive more happiness from? I know, and I don't think it's any different, to be honest, the level of happiness that I experience.
Really?
Yeah.